Hi, I'm Kayna Cassard. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, sex therapist, pelvic pain specialist, and neurosomatic sex coach. And I have been working with people since 2006, helping them overcome sexual challenges and painful sex. Today, I'm joined with Sheila, Henson, who is an ADHD and neurodiversity coach and educator. Thank you for being here and helping us learn more about that and just have the conversation about sex, which is so important and needed.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. A lot of my clients struggle with a lot of different sexual dysfunction or issues related to sex and intimacy, and so I'm excited to talk about that today.
It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. What would you say are typically the biggest concerns that your clients run into when it comes to sex, intimacy, relationships?
I think there are a few things that ADHDers have maybe a tendency to have more of an issue with. One of them is staying focused, shockingly, right? But even during the act, which obviously that can make the partner feel very insecure, like, am I doing something wrong? Why won't you stay, how come I'm not keeping your attention or whatever? But that's one of them. Another one is, ADHD is going to have more issues with any kind of addiction, and that is going to include sex addiction or just utilizing sex for our sort of stimulation seeking, or people say dopamine seeking, like nature, looking for those sort of reward behaviors, and that can become problematic in certain situations. Maybe they're doing that not in their best interest or not in tune with their long-term goals, just like looking for that sort of short-term satisfaction. So those are probably the two that I see the most commonly.
Yeah. And it sounds like it maybe is a challenge even with connecting to authentic sexual experiences, like the ones that are really hitting the sweet spot for folks with ADHD.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's so important and so hard to figure out what that is when I feel like people are driven, and talking from my own experiences, driven to feel good, and then maybe it doesn't align with the authentic desires, like after the fact or something.
Yeah, I mean, impulsivity is a big part of ADHD, and so I think it's a lot easier for an ADHD, like a person with ADHD, to have to make an impulsive decision. Yeah, that's not necessarily aligned with those deeper desires.
Yeah, that's so tough. And like I said, speaking from my own experience of realizing, I didn't do the things that I wanted to. Is there any way that would feel comfortable for you to share about some of your experiences? And I know sort of pop quiz this one on you, but to the extent that you're comfortable with sharing ways in which you saw there was maybe either a mismatch or ways that ADHD showed up in your sexual or romantic life that didn't really align in the way that you wanted to. Definitely
jumping into relationships very quickly, because I was told that you should have sex only if you're in a committed relationship. And I wanted that immediate gratification of having a sexual relationship. And so the person that I might be sexually interested in, but maybe I'm not that deeply romantically interested in, or maybe not that compatible of a partnership, I would maybe still convince myself that relationship was a good idea for me so that I could get those instant gratification, good feelings that, of course, are not sustainable, in that situation. That definitely, when my 20s, there was a lot of that. Yeah.
I hear you. and I think there's a lot of values exploration that tends to be really important with folks with ADHD, realizing that values and connection to vulnerability, all of those components lay the foundational groundwork for long-term intimacy, satisfying relationships, which can also make sex hotter when they're in alignment, when it's sexual behaviors with the people that you like for who they are as a person, and knowing it's reciprocated makes it even hotter. But it can bring a lot of other challenges with folks who have ADHD and don't find that. It's a common ground.
Absolutely.
What are some specific obstacles that you have found that your clients run into when it comes to communicating about their sexual needs with partners?
I think in general, humans in our culture have a hard time with communicating their needs, and especially vulnerability. And there are definitely a lot of people who were raised to think that talking about sex is not okay, even with the people that you're having sex with, which doesn't make any sense.
Mind-blowing.
I used to teach sex ed to high schoolers, and I was like, don't have sex with anyone that you can't talk about sex with. Just don't do it. I think it's a good rule of thumb. But people marry those people, right? And so they're in, you know, deep relationships with people that they don't feel comfortable talking about sex. They don't feel comfortable asking for what they need because it's so taboo to talk about that. And they're afraid of hurting the other person's feelings or getting their feelings hurt. So with ADHD, we can often have rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is like a very intense sensitivity to rejection that can lead to, you know, mental spiraling and rumination and breakdowns and all kinds of things of any sort of perceived rejection. And so having a conversation about something that vulnerable can be really scary, I think, for a lot of ADHDers who might be terrified of that feeling of rejection.
Yeah. And I imagine there's, and experienced that like there's a lot of avoidance too around doing that. So it's kind of just like, I'm gonna jump over the executive functioning part of this and I'm just gonna lean into the feel goods and not have those hard conversations. Do you think your clients struggle more with like initiating sex, sustaining engagement, or transitioning between arousal states, or maybe all of them? Like, what do you see for all of those? Definitely
all of them. I think, again, with initiation, there comes the fear of rejection. So a lot of the time there can be a struggle with wanting to initiate. And just, I think that there's a human desire to feel wanted. And so I think for a lot of people, not just ADHDers, there's a feeling that, oh, well, if I initiate, that means that they didn't want it. Even though they know that if that person initiates, doesn't mean that they don't want it, but they're, you know, we get caught up in our heads and our narratives and things. So I think that that's part of it. And then also because of the distractibility element, staying in an arousal state or like even getting into one when you're have a hard time being present, like being in a situation where you even remember that sex exists, because we can kind of be out of sight, out of mind, you know, like can be a struggle. So it's like maybe their partner's throwing hints that you're missing, or maybe you start getting into it and then you go, oh, I left the oven on or whatever, you know, and that just those thoughts can kind of take you out of the moment. And then, you know, some people's bodies are more adaptable at coming back and some are not. Sometimes some people are slow to warm up, and if you're a slow to warm up person and you're distractible, that's really going to put a damper on the situation. What
tools or frameworks or interventions have you found that have been helpful for your clients when struggling with intimacy or sex?
A lot of what we work on is communication. Like that just ends up, I think people come to an ADHD coach being like, I want my closet cleaned out and I want to be on time to meetings or whatever. And then it always devolves into communication is like a key, you know, tool for everything in your life. Right. And so for this, a lot of what we talk about is just learning what their needs are, number one, and learning like how to tune into their bodies to figure that out. I do a little bit of somatic practice work on that, very light-handed, but you know, and like, but just because that's part of the unmasking process, right? In general, right? There's a thing called masking, if you're not aware, that if you have a neurodivergence or if you're outside of societal norms in any way, you might put on a mask to fit in or to stay safe. And so once you're an adult and you can be like, oh, I want to be my true authentic self, taking off that mask can be a process of figuring out like, wait, who's my real self and all that, right? And there's all this tuning into the body, and sexuality ties into that heavily.
So much.
Because that is our, like some of our most vulnerable, authentic self that can be the most hidden. A lot of people have sexual trauma of like varying degrees that they need to like, you know, dig through in order to figure out like what they really want and need and all of that. So just helping them to figure out what they need and then communicate what they need is that is the thing that we work on the most. And then also planning around like sexual time. So like sometimes people can say, oh, it's not sexy if you know you're having sex on Friday, but if you know you're having sex on Friday with your partner, then you can spend the rest of the week preparing for that. You can also spend the rest of the week sort of mentally foreplaying, you know, that you can make sure that there's going to be less distractions. You're going to be in the right headspace. You eat breakfast, you know, like all of those things so that you're hydrated and like ready to go. And so a lot of the time that we do work on how to make planning sexy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you plan a vacation and you enjoy a vacation, and it doesn't just like go out of the window. Like the fun doesn't go out of the window simply because you planned where you're going to go, what tour you're going to do. Sex is the same thing. And especially with people who have been in long-term relationships, they think that like it should just come naturally. But when we're in the beginning phases of a relationship, we're like mentally playing with the idea of what's going to happen and what's going to feel like. And so like, even though it doesn't seem like it goes into planning, it's still planning. It's so important.
Yeah.
What's been the most enjoyable thing for you as an ADHD neurodiversity coach and educator in the work that you're doing, as it either relates to helping clients with sex or intimacy or just like their life overall?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing is allowing people self-acceptance and like aha moments, right? Like that's the most important thing. That's what's really going to like create lasting change. Like the tips and tricks are great, like to just get through the day, but what's going to really create lasting change is helping people to communicate better with their communities and to accept, okay, again, like these are my needs, whether those be sexual needs, other kinds of needs, these are my needs. And that's just what it is. You know, these are the ones that I'm willing to bend on. These are the ones that I'm not. And then this is how I'm going to communicate that. And this is how I'm going to invite people into my life in a variety of ways, and in a safe way where I know that I have boundaries and I know that I'm going to get my needs met and help them get their needs met, whether that's sexually or whether that's co-working or whether that's helping each other clean out their closet or like whatever it is, So yeah, and I love doing that. I love seeing my clients as they develop their own communities, their own internal, I guess, compasses and internal self-coaching, that they start coming to session and they'll be like, oh, I have this problem. And they'll go, but what I need to do is this and this and this and this. Yeah. And I've already done this. And then I'll go, oh, great. You just coached yourself. Like we might be done here, you know? And I just think that's so fun and amazing and beautiful.
It's kind of a funny thing to be a helper where we're actually trying to put ourselves out of a job. We want our clients to learn all of the things so they eventually don't need us anymore, that they can be totally empowered in knowing that they have taken on the lessons that they can do themselves to shift their lives and change. And it's so rewarding when clients have said to me like, oh, I've got this like little version of you in my head. And I think like, what would Kayna do? Or what would Kayna tell me to do? Or what would Kayna help me understand about this? And I'm like, yes, I want to be that like object permanence inside.
Yes.
And it's so great.
Well, Jiminy Cricket, Kayna.
Yeah. On your shoulder. Hey. Yeah, it's great. It's so great. Well, thank you for sharing all of this. Is there anything else that feels like important that we didn't cover that you would love to share with the internets of the world?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate what you do. I think that it's something that not a lot of people are comfortable with, and having a person that can come in and just be comfortable, model comfort, model vulnerability, and you being willing to talk about your experiences as an ADHDer, as a human, as a person that, has had sexual experiences, good and bad, whatever. I think that that's just so important. And like, we need more of that. We need more of this open communication, and that's going to reduce the amount of despair and trauma that exists in the world, like if we have more of this and pain. So I'm very excited to be here and to be talking about this with you. And so thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. You can follow all of the information and amazing, wonderful things you're doing. Links will be in the description. And we're also doing a workshop on the Arousal Architecture, which is something that I created to help people go through these challenges and ADHD. And so either it's going to be live and you can check it out. Information is down below, or it'll be pre-recorded on either of our websites. So also links will be below. Make sure that you subscribe and like and all the notifications, because that tells the algorithms that this content is important for people just like you. So it gets the word out to other people who need help and support navigating sexual challenges, navigating ADHD, getting the kind of help and support that is available and out there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.